Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. This is Ukraine War news update for the, 14th of October 2023. This is not a normal video because I have recorded this last night on the night of the 13th, so some of this news will be superseded by other things coming out. There may be more information about some of the things I'm saying, and there may be more to add. Take it all in that context. But there is enough to be getting on with. There was actually quite a lot of news that came out yesterday, and we're going to get into that now. Let's start with military aid, and my goodness, about time. So this is really good news. Boeing Saab is on track to supply Ukraine with GLSDB. These are ground-launched small diameter bombs. These are kind of dumb munitions or like cheaper bombs that are adapted to fire out of HIMARS, multiple launch rocket systems, and they are given guidance and extra range. So it's a bit like JDAMs for your aviation that get fins and guidance that are then dropped and have greater precision and range. It's exactly the same with these. So these can fire up to 150 kilometers, whereas the HIMARS and other multiple launch rocket system rockets or missiles can fire up to 84 kilometers. So the difference is this. So if you're in, I don't know, if you've got a HIMARS somewhere here near Orikhiv and you're firing, let's see, where are we there? Okay, so that is 62.9. So 84 kilometers gets you, my goodness. So with a fairly risky placed HIMARS, you can not quite get to the road down the M14 highway going along the south. With GLSDB, okay. This is how significant GLSDBs are. They are not only cheaper, they are also able to stretch right across the land bridge to Crimea. This is huge, right? And they're on the way, and they should be there in the autumn. Well, we're in autumn. We are now on track to deliver the first GLSDB and a new launcher to the Ukrainian military. Ooh. I just got a shiver. A company official said Ukraine is expected to receive them somewhere in the autumn. This is absolutely massive. And actually, there's something else I'm going to add on to this, which is sort of related, possibly. So Lockheed Martin today, or yesterday, and they're the company that produces HIMARS, multiple launch rocket system, announced their modernization, which will allow them to hit moving targets. So the HIMARS are used for stationary targets, static targets, and that means that you can't hit, say, a moving vehicle that's of high importance or train or something like that. Now you can, or at least soon you will be able to. This was reported by the Defense Post. The previously developed RIG or RIG 360 module was tested. It provides in-flight munition target updates and can be used for more than just HIMARS munitions. This test, quote, is a major step forward in advancing the US Army's Joint Fires Operation concept, said Lockheed Martin. Now, when will that go into production? Don't know. Will it ever get to Ukraine? Don't know. But something to think about. If you put that together, and it's probably 6 months off at the very least, I'm just pulling that number out of my posterior, but you put GLSDB together with that, and suddenly the capability of the Ukrainians has somewhat shifted. This is really good news, particularly GLSDB for now. I mean, that's excellent news. They've been really sorely missed. Yeah. Next week in the US, Ukrainian pilots will begin training for flights on the F-16 fighter jets in Arizona. Pilots will first learn the basics of flying the F-16 in the classroom and on simulators before moving to flying the aircraft itself. Excellent stuff. The Netherlands will provide Ukraine, with additional Patriot missiles. Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, said today in Odessa. So he did this unannounced visit to Odessa and has announced Patriot missiles. That's great. I presume they're firing them quite often in the Kiev area, and they are going to be often used at targets that might not be as high value as the missiles, so they will need those missiles. The German government, through the German Development Bank, I just want to add to that, we need to be careful at saying, I've said this right throughout this war, when you've seen Stinger missiles be used at a $10,000 Orlan 10 drone, and you say, well, that's a mismatch, what a waste of money. No, because if that drone is spotting for artillery or whatever, and that artillery is worth, I don't know, $5 million, and that's going to get hit, then the missile you're sending, the expensive missile you're sending at the drone, is worth it. It's not the value of the kit, it's the value of the operation and the opportunity cost of not hitting it. German government, through the German Development Bank, KfW, allocated a grant of 76 million euros to Ukrenergo, the energy company, basically. The funds will be used to finance the construction of engineering protection of substations, the installation of new high-voltage equipment, in particular auto-transformers, and the modernisation of the network of the border with Europe, the company's press service writes. Really good news. Thank you, Germany. And in fact, Germany has updated what they have given. Now, I think this is, again, I quite often say this, not quite, this isn't new stuff. You get several things. You get one, not quite leaks, but it gets out to the information space what a country is going to give as a military assistance package. And then you get the official announcement from the country. And then you get the delivery of that pledged equipment. And sometimes that delivery might come in different parts. So you announce a whole package and they get a bit of that equipment, then a bit of that equipment a bit later. And so you get all these announcements, but they can all refer to the very same thing, right? So this is not something new, but Germany has handed Ukraine a new package of military aid according to the website of the German government. The package includes 4 multi-purpose tracked all-terrain vehicles, a Bandwagen 206, 4 cars for border guards, 2 tank tractors, 2 trailers for tanks, 50 drone detection systems, 82 SATCOM satellite communications terminal, 100,000 first aid kits, and 27,477 backpacks. All very useful stuff. Thank you very much, Germany. Stuff I think I am 100% sure I've announced that before. So, but anyway, that's up on the German government website now. The Frankenstein program, which I'm not quite sure what it is, but this gives us maybe a little bit of an indication. A project that cobbles together air defense weapons for Ukraine from an array of parts from around the world. The newly developed system will be able to launch AIM-9M, so these are Sidewinder missiles. The Sidewinder, while Book will be able to launch RIM-7 Sea Sparrow missiles. So these are these anti-aircraft missiles that are usually fired from ships. They've been adapted to fire from Book launchers. We've known that for some time. That's all, yep, fair enough. But it's these Sidewinder missiles being fired from something else, not quite sure. We've seen this Supercat UK vehicle that is firing AMRAAM missiles. So there are these combinations of different systems and ordnance, and that is on the way to Ukraine, it appears. Right. This is Butasov, who's a journalist walking around a T-90 or crawling around a T-90 tank, a captured Russian T-90 tank in Ukrainian hands. He talks in the latest review of the captured T-90M how the air conditioner is an innovation that allows better conditions for the crew, but is also crucial for keeping the temperature of devices and sensors low. No previous Russian tanks had AC, so if that's gone in the latest batch, Russians are trying to deliver as many tanks as possible in the shortest amount of time, disregarding some essential equipment. It's a bit confusing so no previous Russian tanks had AC. And then it's saying, so if that's gone, I think that means the T-90 is the only tank that has AC, but in the ones that have been captured by Ukraine, they don't have air conditioning, which means that as they're producing these bits of kit, they are cutting corners with their production, because they don't have certain bits of kit they can put in there. The Russians did not install an air conditioner in the vehicle, but rather a mini fan. Air conditioning is shown in figure number 9 in the second image. So, that's the fan that they've put in, and that's number 9 here this is the air conditioning unit as it should be, but it's not there. So it's an interesting little nugget there. Okay, Russia is ready to process a large wave of mobilization. We've been thinking this is going to be coming. It's not going to officially come till after March the 17th, and that being the elections next year, but they need the troops now. So they will be doing crypto mobilization, this kind of under the bonnet, under the radar mobilization. They're ready for next wave of mobilization, but they cannot announce it at the moment. This was stated by Vadim Skibitsky, a representative of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications of Ukraine. All the lists have been revised. Everything has been transferred to electronic accounting. The requirements of the legislation and the norms of the criminal code of the Russian Federation regarding punishment for evading military service and desertion have been significantly strengthened, he said. At the same time, according to him, mass mobilization is a very powerful blow to the Russian economy because the most able-bodied population is called up, which must work, make a product, and ensure industrial activity. So there will be absolutely massive demand for boots on the ground for the Russians, and they will be trying their very hardest to mobilize. Now, the biggest news that came out last night was this. US has learned that North Korea has transferred 1,000 containers of military equipment to Russia, says the White House. Now, I've heard variously 300 pieces, 300 containers or 1,000 containers. Whatever, it's a lot of stuff, right? And there's a lot of ink being spilt about this at the moment. And this is very, very significant because it means, first of all, that's bad news because Russia are getting stuff. You know, pro-Ukrainians want them to be in a position where they don't have ammunition and they don't have artillery and they don't have equipment. But if they can get it from North Korea, then that gets them out of a problem. There are some side points to make here, though. There are some claims out there that actually the quality of the kit won't be good. So the quality of the ammunition is arguably debatable. So that is something else. Now, the biggest thing to consider, though, are the ramifications here. So if the White House is announcing, right, North Korea are providing Russia with ammunition, with 1,000 containers of ammunition or 300 containers of equipment or whatever it is, there is I think that's seriously bad news for Russia, because I think it gives a green light for a number of things. Well, two things really. One is the US, three things. The first obvious one is greater sanctions on North Korea. This actually contravenes resolutions, I'm pretty sure, UN resolutions. So I wonder what ramifications this might have for Russia if this becomes a known fact. So there could be some sanctions knock-ons for both countries that will not be good for either country. That's the first thing. Second thing is South Korea might now say, and I think this is huge, because South Korea being this nation that produce a massive amount of military hardware, and they've got a sort of agreement or protocol that they do not give ammunition to Ukraine to like a warring, a bit like Switzerland to a degree, right? So what they've been convinced to do is to give their ammunition to the US, and the US can then backfill their own stocks and give much more of their own stocks to Ukraine, right? So in effect, South Korea are providing stuff to Ukraine effectively, right? But if they are now under no illusions that North Korea their sworn enemy is providing directly equipment to Russia, then it's like it's open season. It's like, okay, well, we produce some really damn good equipment, and I think you might find a bunch of that's going to find its way to Ukraine. That's huge, right? And then the third thing is the US. So the US might say, "Oh, Russia, you've crossed the red lines. I think we need to do. I think the allied nations need to do this more. Don't dance to the Russian tune here, where they're the ones that are dictating the red lines. We should dictate red lines. So Russia, you've taken stuff from North Korea. That ain't happening. So ATACMS, there you go. Gripens, there you go. Whatever it is. There you go, Ukraine. You can have that. So I think the ramifications to this bit of news are huge. There'll be more details coming out about that. There will be articles that have been written overnight. There already are articles that have been written that I could share with you, but you get the picture. They seem to be definitely getting stuff from North Korea, and that is significant. Right, going on to geopolitical stuff. I've already mentioned that Mark Rutte had a surprise unannounced trip to Odessa. They visited a hospital where soldiers are being treated. and announced Patriot missiles, and I don't know if anything else is going to come out of that, probably. That's really good news, though. Rutte and the Netherlands have been absolutely magnificent in their support for Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. They've gotten 0 tanks, and they provided, 85 tanks or whatever, a big number of tanks for Ukraine by financing them. It's really good stuff. UK is exploring using frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine's defence. This is something that the UK have been sort of pussyfooting around with because they have been afraid. That's a bit harsh, actually. I don't mean it like that. They've been careful about this because they're very afraid, for good reason, that there could be legal comeback to using frozen assets and turning them into liquid cash and then use them straight away. They've been worried about that, so they've been erring on the side of freezing them until reparations are paid and then giving them back, that kind of thing. But now they're looking into, because I think we want to, it's probably pressure that we want to help more, but we don't have the spare cash, and we certainly don't have the spare equipment to help as much as we would like. So the UK government has asked the central bank to explore using frozen Russian sovereign assets, of which the UK will have loads. We've got Londongrad is called that because we have laundered, like, the connections between the Russians and the Tory party are very close, right? And Boris Johnson was in a lot of trouble before the war broke out for pandering to the Russians and allowing Russian money to be laundered through London, through properties, through, you know, the rich Russian elites schooling their kids, whatever. Britain has been one of the major. There are reports out on this, and have been for years, that Britain is one of the main money laundering places for Russian money. We take their dirty money, and it is not cool, right? It is not cool. But our government has turned a blind eye, and in fact, they've made certain people peers in the House of Lords, who, you know, like the Russian, what's his name? Anyway, he was in charge. He owns the Evening Standard newspaper and the Independent online. So anyway, he became a peer, and it's all kind of dodgy. But then the war happened, and actually, Boris Johnson was very strong on that, and there's been this move, there's been this realisation, it's been a day of reckoning, really, for our government, I guess, that, do you know what, we probably shouldn't allow all that Russian money to be laundered through the UK, and the Tory party had a bit too close a relationship with Russians. So I think... I think that's that. My point was that there's a lot of Russian assets in the UK. There's a lot of money swishing around the UK that could easily be frozen, and no doubt has been. Russian diplomats being found dead in an Istanbul hotel. This is just all sorts of dodgy stuff going on with people falling out windows, with people dying, or being poisoned. It's terrible. Bulgaria has introduced a tax on the transit of Russian gas to the EU, Bloomberg reports. The new bill, published Friday, takes effect immediately. According to it, a fee of 20 Bulgarian lions, $10.76 per megawatt hour of gas of Russian origin is introduced. This is about 20% of the price of benchmark European gas sold in the regional centre of Amsterdam. So Bulgaria is a country that is in the east, but it's not too similar, really, to places like Hungary. There's Bulgaria that does have very close Russian connections over time. Sorry, my laptop started taking off then. The fan started going crazy. Sorry about the noise, if you heard that. But yeah, Bulgaria has a different history, I guess, different relationship with Russia than, say, Hungary does. And they have been really important allies of Ukraine in terms of supplying, at one point at the beginning of the war, something like a third of Ukraine's ammunition. They still manufacture Soviet-era ammunition, and they are being, I think, an important ally of the Ukrainians, kind of the unsung heroes, maybe, in Europe. So that's really good news that they're being strong in those in that way. So that's that for the second news piece today. There'll be a lot more news out there that would have developed overnight and into the morning. I'll try and assimilate that into my next news piece. on Sunday. I don't know what time I'll be able to do that. Anyway, that's that. Thank you so much. You take care. Speak to you at some point over the weekend.